Everyone, this is B-Belt Dan, and I am back in Blender. I am working on the Enterprise J. However, though, this particular episode is not actually going to be focusing on the Enterprise J. I'm just kind of just doing a little bit of work here to prepare it for the actual official episode, building the Enterprise J in Blender. But I've kind of started off into this because I want to go ahead and kind of introduce this episode series that I'm going to be starting. What this is going to be is just me taking a look at some other vessels that I have been uh, that I have worked on, that I have created on, within my years. These are ships that I have done, which for whatever reason um, they're either abandoned or they're already completed. Several different variations of that. But I mean, it's not going to really warrant me to do full episodes on them, but I'm going to be doing it in case some of y'all are interested in looking at some of my other work and some of my original ideas because, so far the Enterprise J is partially original, but not fully. It's still heavily inspired um, by an existing ship. The Akira class and the Braille class vertebraes are definitely um, inspired by, or definitely, not inspired by, but are definitely based on real life ships. But so if y'all want to kind of see some of my other work, that's what this series is going to be. And this is going to be a regular series. I'll bet maybe a temporary one because I only got so many models. So it really doesn't make a lot of sense for me to go into a, I mean, I don't really have a whole lot of ships that I can, you know, show off on this, a whole lot of models I can show off. Um, so yeah, it's going to be temporary, but but until I get done with it, it's going to be kind of regular. So with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and cut out into a different program and uh, visual. I'm going to pop the models up here in Blender, but for this particular ship, this is the ship that kind of really kind of kick-started me in full gear into working on 3D models and especially in the sci-fi era. So, I definitely got some jagged edges on that I need to work on. Ew, that looks terrible. So, well, let me go ahead and jump out of this and get that started, and I'll be back with you in just a minute. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I want to present to you the USS Phoenix, or the Ascension class. This right here is, let me give you a little bit of a backstory of what this is, because some of y'all are probably knowing right offhand that there already is an Ascension class vessel, called the USS Phoenix. And a little bit of that story is that I actually used to work for the company that is now producing that. Well, I say work because it was volunteer work, but they actually hired me on. Well, once again, volunteer work, so there was really no hire, but they asked me to come on to actually do some of the visual effects and designs of the ships. And it all started, you saw the beginning of this episode, I was working on the Enterprise J, and that's what I was working on at the time. They saw my picture. It was Leo Roberts and another gentleman who contacted me, and they said they saw my Enterprise J and they absolutely loved it, and they were wanting to do a new series. Long story short of it is that it was originally going to be a story on the Enterprise J, but then they or Leo decided to do a completely new series based on a completely original ship in a different timeline. And so he came up with the Phoenix class vessel. Um, and so I started working on it, and there was a whole bunch of ideas that I threw out at him, but ultimately it whittled down to where this was going to be the design of the Phoenix that they wanted. I did a couple of sketches and sent them to Leo, and him and the other people that were tied into production at the time looked at it and they liked it and they gave me the okay. This right here is the front portion of it, of what I drew. And this right here is the back portion of the vessel. A couple of things that you'll probably recognize is that it does have, I mean, even though there are some, uh, recognizable, like especially in here in the front portion with the saucer section, recognizable part pieces of Federation technology. The back portion looks a little bit different. And if y'all are familiar with the Star Trek Phoenix or web series, I say series because right now they only got the one episode, Cloak and Dagger, online right now. That's what the ship is supposed to be. It's a kind of a hybrid of, or a combination of, Federation and Romulan technology. So the back portion looks kind of Romulan. You can almost see a bit of a bird of prey, or not bird of prey, but a Deradex type uh, look to it. And even in the nacelles, it's a little bit kind of a mix between the Federation and Romulan technology, while the front portion of the vessel is more of the along the lines of Federation technology. So this was a design that I submitted, one of many. This is the one that they decided, and so this was the one that I started building the model on. Um, we went through a lot of design sketches and rough sketches, and then some finalized sketches, and then really kind of went in on some detailed sketches and things. And once they finally gave the go ahead, I started doing the models. And what I usually do when I do a model is just to kind of get a feel of how it's going to look in 3D, because you have this ship in 2 dimensions. Well, there's a lot of things that you can draw in 2 dimensions, but once you start trying to put it in 3 dimensions, it doesn't quite work. So to make sure that this, it looked good in this angle, it looked kind of good in this angle. Once again, they said, yeah, we like it, let's go ahead and move forward with it. I did kind of a rough sketch or a rough modeling. And so this last picture that we're going to see here is of kind of the rough model of the Phoenix. I don't have this particular file anymore, but what we're looking at here is we kind of looked at it to where, well, what if the Phoenix first started off as a Federation only vessel, which is this top portion here, but then they decided, halfway in development, they decided to go ahead and do a joint venture with the Romulans, and the Romulans started throwing their ideas into how they can modify the vessel, which goes into the lower portion, which is the ship that you ultimately see. So from that, I started working on the model, so I'm going to go ahead and jump right into Blender. And everybody, here she is in 3D form. I'm going to go ahead, and in an effort to try to keep this episode as short, as quick as possible, I'm just going to kind of give you all the nickel and dime tour of the Ascension class, or the original first Ascension class. This model is not finished in any particular type of way or form. Eventually I had to abandon this model and to work on a refit model, because somewhere down in the production line we decided to go a particular different route, and we can go more into that if I decide to go ahead and show off the refit model of the Ascension class. So first off, just as you can see, you can somewhat kind of make out a bit of the blend between the Romulan and Federation technology. The particular era of the ship was primarily based on the Voyager class, the Intrepid class, kind of breeding in with the Diderix class, which you'll definitely see a bit more of the Diderix class if you don't see it already when I show you the saucer separation. There is saucer separation here. With the saucer separation, that does mean that there was 2 sets of drives. We try to duplicate the drives as much as possible. We gave it 2 impulse engines. These were the primary impulse, and these were shut off during normal use. We put thrusters, maneuvering thrusters on. There's supposed to be more back here. I guess they didn't get modeled in for whatever reason. But we put impulse thruster or maneuvering thrusters in the front and on the secondary hull, so when it separates, both the secondary hull and the primary hull can have maneuvering thrusters. I thought that was something that was somewhat missing on some of the ships that had saucer separation. There was dual warp cores. This was you had your primary warp core, which was on this particular type of vessel. The matter antimatter ejection pods was actually from the top portion. They would be ejected out from the top. There's the antimatter, and so it was actually opposite in this vessel, where matter was stored at the bottom, antimatter was stored at the top. So it was kind of a upside down type technology. but there was also some in the saucer section. Here was the matter and antimatter ejection, or antimatter and warp core ejection ports, and the nacelles were actually hidden inside the vessel itself through these two little hatches that we see right here. Go into edit mode, we might be able to see them a little bit better. Oh, not necessarily. Nope, not necessarily. And boy, now that I'm looking at it, some of the division on this was just downright terrible. I could definitely do better, but we kind of toyed around with the idea to whether these would be retracted into the hull to expose the buzzer collectors and the rear emitters, or it would blow off into space and show and allow them to be seen. I think blowing them out into space was what we kind of started looking at doing, but we didn't really touch it too much because we figured it would be several episodes in before we had to show it. Even if we ever do show it, it'd be kind of like the Calypso in the the captain's yachts in both Voyager and in the Enterprise D. They're there, but you never really do see them. And if there was indeed a saucer separation, which we're going to go ahead and show here, there was a forward hull portion, which really kind of starts showing off the Dederick's, Romulan Dederick's Warbird look to it. Really starts to kind of look very Romulan-esque without that saucer section. And that's kind of what we wanted. We kind of wanted to make it to where the back portion was more heavily influenced to the Romulan design, while the front portion stayed relatively unchanged. The Romulans wouldn't really see the purpose of having this forward section, so they just primarily just worked on the back section here. So we see a lot of that influence into that, especially with this, upper lower sections here. Going into the upper lower sections, as we see from the back, is we do have, and if I go into textured rendered mode, you'll be able to see a little bit better, is that we do have at least three uh, cargo or docking bays. This was actually supposed to be two, and this was supposed to be three because the primary was actually right here, which we'll look at it. There's, of course, also the back. Of note, these were cargo holds right here. This was all primarily for cargo use, all the way back into here. That's the rear-facing photon torpedo. We'll take a look at this all rendered again inside a minute. And this was your primary docking bay, your primary shuttle bay. Shuttle bay, that's what I'm looking for right here. Shuttle bay was to be right here. This right here was primarily diplomatic living quarters, to where it was even though that it was close to the engineering section, we kept it right there because we felt like that diplomats wanted to be a little bit well protected from, by the ship itself, because it's, unless you fire it at from underneath, you can't get to it from very easily from the front, from the back. Here's the only real area where you can really kind of get it from, and that's only if the shields were down. So it was pretty well protected. A couple of little things to where we could probably talk about in a later episode, if we have a later episode talking more details about this. Let's see, what else can we probably talk about real quick in this nickel and dime tour? Some of the new technology that we had introduced into this, and this was something that I do know that has made it into the official USS Phoenix, was it had a jump drive in it. I can't remember what the name it is, and I'm kind of embarrassed I can't remember the name because I kind of invented the technology for the series on this particular type of ship. But these were the emitters that was used to initiate the jump. If you ever watch Star Trek Phoenix, Cloak and Dagger, the first episode, you could definitely see this in action. So I know this is something that carried into the next ship, because if you look, there's this emitter that lights up that's in the saucer section, and in front of the ship would be a black hole or a kind of what looks like to be a black hole opening up that the ship could disappear into. And I think that is still the jump drive technology that we talked about. Whether if it's using the exact same theories that I came up with, I'm not 100% sure because they didn't go a whole lot of that into the episode, but I definitely put limitation explained in my theory about how it works, why it works, and also limitations that I put into it, to where warp drive wasn't completely eliminated from from the series. The other technology that I put into it was Holo-Emitters. Now this I don't know if it actually has made it into the series, uh, but we came up with something that's called Holo-Emitters, and this was something that was invented by the Federation under close scrutiny and observations of the Romulans, because the Romulans still would not give the Federation the ability to cloak, but they would give them the ability to be able to disguise themselves from, sensors and even visual, looking at it on a view screen of what the ship actually is. Once again, if that actually made it into the episode, into the new Phoenix, I'm not 100% positive. I haven't seen anything on the vessel that looks like they are Holo-Emitters, because it's what these are right here. You know, they were supposed to be pointed in every single direction of the ship so it could be disguised. But I don't know whether that's actually made it onto the episode or not. So if it has, but it hasn't been shown yet, sorry, I might have given you all a bit of a spoiler on it. Um, but other than that, I can't really think of anything else. I mean, there's still a lot more to look at on this ship. But that's pretty much all I wanted to kind of do on this episode, because I just wanted to kind of give y'all a quick look at one of my original designs. Uh, and this almost did make it from, into the actual episode. This would have been, the actual Phoenix. At one time it was the actual Phoenix. We was about ready to start using it for promotional material and everything, but I never got finished to doing this. So the textures I know are terrible on this particular model. There's still a lot of anomalies in the mesh that I need to do when I start going through and doing my, y'all hear me say it all the time, my housekeeping on it. Because eventually we abandoned this to start doing a refit model, so to say. In universe, it wasn't a refit, but for us, it was basically a refit, because looking at the ship, people had ideas, and we wanted to go a particular type of different routes. So, but I'm going to go ahead and call the episode right there, because I just wanted to keep this a real quick, short episode between me and all of y'all. But it doesn't necessarily have to be the last. Said if y'all would like for me to do another episode talking more about the ship, showing off more about the ship, going into more details such as deck plan, weapon arrangement, sizes, and all that kind of good stuff and everything, let me know. I'd be more than happy to do it. Or if y'all would like for me to do like a complete, mini series on either rebuilding this whole ship or improving on just this model, let me know, and we could probably I'll consider that. Otherwise, this is only the first of many episodes I'm going to be doing, little mini episodes, mini mini mini, a lot of small episodes I'm going to be doing on a lot of other models that I have done throughout my little experiment, through Blender and everything. And some of them are original, some of them are not from Star Trek. They're also from other genres, so be looking forward to those. But until then, I just want to say thank you for watching. This is B Bell Dan, and I will see you next time.